Okay, wow. I've never brought in the show ever. I've never
Yeah.
started it. It's just
Do you
scary.
feel comfortable doing it? Do you like if you want like to
Do you
one of us
want
to
do you
it,
want
that's
one
so
of us
fine.
to start it and then we can hand
No,
off to you?
I want to do it. I
All
want
right.
to do it.
I believe in you, bud.
We believe in you.
So wait, how do I start? I just say, "Hey guys,
Welcome to Western
it's-
Kabuki," or you can just say "Hey guys" too. That works.
You could say anything you
This
want.
is
as
all.
long
Just
as
to be
you're-
clear,
yeah.
as the editor, this is all going in the episode.
All this is going in."
Yep.
Okay, that's good. So we're acting.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Hey guys. Welcome back to another show of Western Kabuki, the show that we're on right now that you guys love. It's me, Lolo, your normal host who does this all the time. And am I hearing myself in my headphones or is
I
that
hear a bit of an echo. Honestly, you're off to a great start. I don't know how you put up with this guy lately. He's a real pain in the ass.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear
Is
you.
that better?
You sound great. Yeah.
7 hours later.
Awesome intro. So anyway,
That's all going in the last 7 minutes.
So today's episode, we have a friend of mine, Layla Saliba, is joining us. Layla is a student who is just about to finish out at Columbia School of Social Work. She is also a strident activist. She has been heavily involved with the student encampments at Columbia and pro-Palestinian advocacy, as well as advocacy around divestment, trying to get Columbia University, which has a multi-billion-dollar endowment, also that I am also an alumni. Shout out to me. She's joining us today to talk about everything that's going on at Columbia and some of the things she's seeing there. Welcome, Layla.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I feel weird like calling myself like an activist or like anything like that. Like this kind of just like fell into me. I wasn't expecting this with grad school, but I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, we're happy to have you.
Yeah, it seems like when I was younger, you just like become passionate about something. Like you see like an injustice in the world, and it just is like, wait a second, this is like bigger than like just one of us, right? Like that's how it was for me when I was like in high school. I saw the like bombing in like the Middle East, and I was like, this feels really evil, and like America's doing this. Why is this happening when I feel it in my bones that this is so evil, right?
Yeah, and I think that's like a uniquely like human thing to like want better, for people and just to like imagine a better world. Like I something that's been happening like a lot at Columbia, or just like honestly just like with like student protests and stuff in general, is kind of like the framing of the media, like, oh, these people are like radical and like they're so crazy and all this stuff. And it's like, I just don't think children should be bombed. Like, sorry if that's controversial, but like,
It
yeah,
is.
it is
It is
controversial.
very controversial.
It is controversial. But like,
Somehow, like we joke,
yeah.
but somehow that is.
No,
Yeah.
literally. And it's like, I don't want my tax dollars going towards that. Like, there are much better things that we could be spending that on. And it's just like, I'm also, too, is like, I don't believe that like universities are places of education. I don't believe universities should be investing in weapons manufacturers and defense contractors and these things that do a lot of harm to our society, while claiming to be like, oh, we're these engines for we're these change agents. We are these engines for social good, blah blah blah.
And that's kind of like one of the bullshit aspects of Columbia, right? It's like they talk about the 1960s and they talk about 1968 specifically, like almost like as an advertising campaign for at least before the last 18 months of kind of like how woke they were.
No, exactly. Like, I think people look at Columbia and they're like, oh my gosh, like why are these kids like doing this? Like I didn't do this when I was in school. And it's like, yeah, like everybody's college experience is different. I went to a state school for undergrad and it was very different than grad school. But like Columbia is known for protesting. Like in 1968, students occupied 5 buildings to protest the Vietnam War and to protest the creation of a segregated gym in Harlem. They literally called it Jim Crow.
Jesus Christ, that's crazy. In 1968, that's bonkers.
Yeah.
What
They
the
wanted to
fuck?
create like a separate entrance or something for Harlem residents to get in and being like, oh, this is like helping the community. I'm like, if you're not giving equal access to everyone, that is not helping the community. And like students were really, really upset about it. And like, I think also too is like people kind of have to like consider like in order to like get to like occupying a building, like what are the conditions and stuff that come before this? Like, why are students considering doing this? And it's because they've tried everything else. They've tried rallies, they've tried petitions, they've tried writing op-eds, and it's like if that it isn't working, like that's why people engage in direct action.
I was at the in Columbia encampment last year, and I also went to the encampment at UCLA. And one thing I felt like what stood out to me about everything that I saw at least at those two places and from what I saw at other places, was that it was very organized. It was very kind of like civil, let's say, you know what I mean? Like everybody was, taking up space, but not causing a problem. And, you mentioned 1968 where correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they had control of like those buildings for like almost an entire year. Whereas this with Hamilton Hall, within, I think 48 hours, they sent in like the SWAT team for these kids.
I think it was a week with Hamilton Hall. I think it was a week in 1968, not a year.
Oh, I thought it was a year.
I don't know if it was a year.
Oh my God, fact check me.
They did like what was it?
Community noted,
Sorry.
bitch.
They did.
I'm so fucked. No, we're trying to generate fake news here.
They did arrest more people in 1968 versus like now. Sorry, I'm like a nerd when it comes to this stuff, y'all. What was it? They arrested, I think, around like 700 people.
So when I was like probably 20. I grew up in Ann Arbor, Michigan. The University of Michigan is there. It's a huge public institution. Columbia, I know, is not a public institution, but much like, Yale or whatever, they had their own secret society called the Michigama. And it was in the attic of the Michigan Students Union where I worked at a Subway. And in I think 2000, I think it was February 6, 2000. I'm looking it up right now. The Students of Color Coalition forced their way into the secret societies, their meeting place, and continued to occupy it for a month or something like that, like a very long time. And were giving tours of it. And the tours included like all of the Native American or indigenous artifacts that they had misappropriated, and photo albums of generations of fuckers getting drunk and being assholes. And like there was no violence. It was just a conversation that got them out of there. And the conversation actually involved the dissolution of Michigama. But it's crazy to me how quickly how quickly violence became like violence and like forcibly removing people became the tenor of this thing. And it speaks a lot to how much has changed in 25 years. You know what I mean?
That was my experience too, because I went very briefly. I used to work up in Milwaukee, and there was an encampment there, a student encampment, for a while, and I decided to go check it out and talk to some of the organizing people there. And yeah, it was like very similar story. I think you could probably say this about pretty much any university that had any sort of student activism, especially around like this Palestinian protest, where it was like people were very like peaceful, like talking, very community driven. Like in my experience in Milwaukee, like some of the people, like a Christian church in the neighborhood was making food for the encampment students, and it was like really beautiful, and it was just like a great thing. But then, yeah, as Alex, you said, that these modern, like the way that the government has been handling protests ever since BLM, I feel like it was really ever since the BLM protests. and it really started like in the way it did in like 2020, where they got the state has gotten very violent. Because I've been involved in, not as like a front person, but like I've gone to all sorts of movements I'm almost 30 now, for quite a while, ever since I was like my early 20s. Even in high school, I went to some stuff, and I can't say it's ever been this genuinely terrifying to be involved in any of these protests.
You are one of the sworn enemies of Shai Davide. Is that true?
Yes. Yeah.
That's just for context, 'cause I know the name. That's that guy on Twitter. I know him from the guy on Twitter.
Yeah.
He's a professor, but he's the guy that is like losing his goddamn fucking mind all the time, right?
Yes. He is a former professor at Columbia, right? Like
he's still there. He's on paid leave.
Right. So they won't let him around students, basically.
No.
Like
he's banned from campus. But like
he's banned from
that
campus.
Doesn't really stop him from engaging in his advocacy work, if you will. I think that's a way to describe it.
It's every professor's dream to be banned from campus and to be on paid leave. And also for half, what percentage of the student body do you think doesn't like this guy? 100%? 90, 95%? I don't want to besmirch his good name. He has such a good reputation.
We also don't want to like make your life more difficult, because I know you've actually faced some pretty serious harassment from this guy.
Yeah. It's I would say, well, the thing is like, I'm not the only person. I would say I try to like avoid engaging with him personally, because I have a no contact order against him. I had to get one because he would not stop like tweeting about me or posting photos of me, which is a really weird thing to have to get against a faculty member of your school. I didn't think that faculty members could just like post photos of students, but that's just like normal at Columbia, I guess. And he's targeted. He mainly goes after women, especially like young women of color. Like he's targeted one of my friends. He was targeting one of my friends, and it's like she is 18 years old. Like she was a freshman at Barnard, and like
that's fucking
and it's like
crazy.
You were in like your 40s, like with a wife and a kid. Like why are you tweeting about an 18-year-old? Like it's really, and it's like
it has the same vibe when like Shia Raichik or any of these like weird like 50-year-old men, like right-wing influencers, will post about like high school fights and make it like oh, look at this like black kid beating up this like white kid. It's like, you're 50. Why are you like, you're posting about kids? What is happening? Why are these adults getting in like children's I don't know. It's just weird to me. It's so weird.
Yeah. And it was just like, I think also too is like, he is kind of, I would say infamous at Columbia. Like everybody knows him. Like you can just mention like business school professor and everybody's like, oh, yep, there he goes. And it's because also just like, I don't know, like the stuff he just does, it's just like, sometimes I'm just like, is he a real person? Like one time I remember like his ID card got denied, and like he was like, this is the sound of civil rights being denied. And I was like, yes. And he posted that like completely serious. And I was just like, is this school real? Like, what is going on here? Like, why is a professor at my school like doing this?
Yeah, no, that is unreal. I can't imagine like having someone that I had as a teacher doing anything like that. That's like crazy.
I've never had him as a teacher is the thing. So I've never had him as a teacher. Many of the people that he like goes after are like not his students. He just if he views it as like, oh, I am like calling this person out, and it's like I'm just speaking my truth, and it's like, no, you are actually in a position of power, and like you were a faculty member, and like you shouldn't be saying that kind of stuff towards students.
I mean, I think that it's very concerning that he does that stuff, but more concerning is like how limp Columbia's response to it has been. I think in any reasonable at any reasonable university, he would have been fired ages ago.
Oh, absolutely.
And even more broadly than just like how they've handled him, but like everything ever since Trump has been elected, like that, like, because if correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Mahmoud Khalil went to Columbia, right?
Yeah.
Like he's a Columbia grad student, and like this school has rolled over, exposed their fucking like chest to Donald Trump, and like, yes, do whatever.
So speaking of Mahmoud Khalil, Layla is
Yeah.
actually friends with Mahmoud.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
It
yeah.
was so. He's been, and we also have another student too. Mohsen Madawi just got detained yesterday, and like the Palestinians at Columbia, it's like, like we all know each other, and like I was closer with Mahmoud personally, but it's like it's just like not something that you ever really like imagine happening. I mean, it was just just see like, because I was like, oh, like we literally just saw each other like a few days before this, like this is crazy. And we were all just like in complete shock. And I think what made it worse too is just like Columbia didn't like support him at all. Like to this day they have not said his name, and it's like the trustee, and it's not like Mahmoud was like, oh, like some random guy at Columbia. He was well known, he was well respected with members of administration, with trustees. He met with trustees like personally to like serve as a negotiator during the protests on campus, because he's a little bit older than some of the undergrads, and he worked for the UN. So it's like he has diplomacy experience that like a 19-year-old sophomore is not going to have. And so he's the type of person that's like, okay, let's sit down, let's find a solution for everyone. And like they targeted him because of that. Like during the encampments, they literally suspended him for a day, knowing that could revoke. He was on a visa at the time, knowing that could revoke his visa, and then unsuspended him the next day. And he was the negotiator. He wasn't like participating in the protests or anything. And it's like they did that just to mess with him, just to intimidate him. And like the reason why, like, especially like I would say like the response it's been repressive since the Trump administration, yes, but it's like it's honestly always been this way since October 7th. Like, and that is because the trustees at Columbia, they are really dedicated to squashing any type of pro-Palestine activism at any costs. They are willing to let students get beaten by the police. They are willing to let students get detained, deported, if it means protecting their financial interests.
It hasn't protected their financial interests. They're being held over. They're over a fucking barrel. And there are other universities that have made legal challenges to the administration and won. And like all it takes is
right, because Trump took away Columbia's funding, right?
Yeah, 400 to the tune of $400 million.
Jesus,
and that was, and Layla, correct me if I'm wrong here. So, as you've already done before, which you were right, I looked it up. But please fact check me as I just make things up. I know, no, but that was, I know it was $400 million. Okay, but they, God damn it, they bent over backwards over the last year and a half to do everything possible to, like you said, squash or quash, these protests, anything that was going on. And even in spite of that, they still got hit with this thing where now they're going into like a federal receivership for the Middle Eastern Studies, I think, and the African Studies department. Like there's a couple different departments that they're basically going to have like an Orwellian government supervisor over the curriculum or something like that. Is that
Jesus fucking Christ?
That's like one aspect of it.
It's the MESA's department. It's Middle Eastern, South Asian, and African Studies. And the reason why they're doing that is basically because people with opposing views to me, they have really expressed a dislike for particular professors at Columbia. I know like Joseph Massad, for example, like that is someone that people have like really, really targeted at Columbia. and he's been targeted for decades. And like they are basically doing this because they want to have control over the department. They want to have control over who's teaching, what students are learning, what they're reading in class, etc. Because, and also too is like conservatives, like they have opposed higher education for a long time. I think about especially like Ronald Reagan and how much I believe it was Reagan who like implemented student loans and like call it like I feel like a lot of people like forget about that. Like college used to be like so much cheaper. Like conservatives have like fundamentally opposed higher education like for decades, and like they are basically using this it's cutting away university funding to dismantle higher education.
No, I think that's a really good point, because this I think like they do want to punish protesters that they disagree with, especially people that are pro-Palestinian. But I think the true end game is to actually continue to defund the university system. They're trying to abolish the Department of Education for a reason, right? Like this is the long play that they're trying to go. Like I don't think it's a coincidence. I think both of those are super connected, and they know that, and they're weaponizing that. Like both of those aspects together.
You know, it reminds me so much of the way that media has capitulated to like the weird offense that Republicans take about everything. Like, you're not represent like this, you know, anytime something's like, you know, all the war on Christmas shit and all the ways that like corporations try to appease those fucking lunatics. It's like the universities are doing the exact same thing. They're just like, yeah, we've got to make sure that people are feeling represented and cared for. But these people don't want to negotiate with you or like see the world from different perspectives. They want to end everything that you do. They don't want it. They want to reshape society to be something completely different than it is now.
And that's what's so frustrating to like, especially in this moment, ever since October 7th, I feel like looking back over the last couple of decades where right wingers and even centrists to an extent, there was a lot of people in like centrist media that gave a lot of cover to these people where they would be like, oh, we can't even go on campuses and talk about our ideas without being canceled. Wow. Look at the tolerant left. Look at the tolerant university systems. Wow. This is a huge problem. This is actually the biggest problem in our society. And then pro-Palestinian protest encampments start popping up, and they're like, well, actually, maybe we should kill these protesters. Actually, you know, I'm not a big fan of speech after all. And that's been sort of maddening too. I mean, that was like a whole, I feel like a normalization process to get us to this point, so that all of these people were taken seriously, you know, all of these like insane figures that are now just saying maybe we shouldn't have due process. And it's like, I hate to always just be like, wow, it's so bleak, isn't it? But it's like, you know, I don't think it's important. I think it's important to not just like lie about this sort of thing and be like, oh, it's going to be like fine. Like, of course, everything will be fine. I think eventually things will be. But like, I think it's important to acknowledge right now, it's like not fine right now, right?
No, exactly. Like, I think it's important to acknowledge that like things are bleak, but we also is like we do have the power for collective change. And when it comes to fascists, when it comes to people under like authoritarian regimes, like really collective action is really, really important. And organizing, like no matter what that looks like, even if it's like, oh, like what was it? I'm sure y'all know this stuff, but even if it's like, oh, okay, like I set up a community fridge, or I am like attending protests and stuff regularly. Like, I just don't think I really don't think we should like normalize what's happening right now, because it's not normal and it's not okay. And like, I don't want like what's happening to me at like I don't want this to be like my experience. I'm not gonna like it's been rough. I don't want this to be like somebody else's like grad school experience, you know?
How do you feel like it seems like things are obviously getting worse. And I mean, specifically, I mean, obviously, like if you look around the country, but also just looking at Colombia as like a case study on how these things are going to continue to happen, right? Or how the government is going to attempt to do these things. How has the tenor changed, like on the university itself? Like, one thing I've noticed is that it used to be the case that Columbia is very open, like it's part of Harlem. You could walk through across the campus. Now it's like a fortress. You can't get in without an ID anywhere, including in like a lot of spaces that used to be public spaces. And now it seems like they're just letting ICE like look for students actively on campus. Is that happening?
No, basically, yeah. We are pretty much left to like fend for ourselves. Like, all of this horrific stuff is happening to us, and it's not like we can go and like reach out to the administration, because when they do, I mean, they ignore us. Like, Mahmoud asked for help from Colombia. Mohsen asked for help from Colombia before they were detained, and they were ignored. And so it's like we've really been forced to kind of like lean on each other and lean on our community during this time. But like, it's very scary. Like, I have friends who are like, there are people who are like terrified to leave their dorms. And honestly, I can't blame them, because it's like there's not much in place to protect them. People know that if something happens to them, Colombia's not going to protect them. Like, it's frustrating, like, like seeing how much like these other schools have like done for their, like, they're releasing like statements, they're doing legal briefs, they're doing that stuff. And Colombia is like, yeah, we do not care if you live or die. I'm a little more like, I'm in grad, like, I'm a little more like, I can deal with that. But it's like, when you're like an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, like college, like that is terrifying. Like, people come to these schools because it's like, they want an education. They want to make the world a better place. And it's been horrific to be treated like this.
So is Columbia the only university that has really abandoned their students? Because I know there was a statement by Harvard, I think yesterday, fighting back against like Trump weaponizing their funding against them I think the demand was something like, you have to end DEI, you have to end this, that. And I think Harvard was essentially like, go fuck yourselves. Why do you think Columbia is the president of Columbia behind this? Is it the deals, like the money? Because I know a lot of the early demands of some of these student encampments was to divest from Israel in any way that they can, or in all ways. Do they just have a lot of like investments with Israel, a lot of like sort of deals? I don't entirely know the mechanics behind that, but do you think that's why, like, they don't want to lose these investments?
Oh, absolutely. So we have a trustee. His name is Victor Mendelsohn, and he is on the board for a weapons manufacturing company that yeah,
dear God,
it's like comically evil.
No, exactly. It's like, it's like, where do we find these people? And these trustees, like, the trustees, they are ultimately the ones like making the decisions at Columbia, and they are the ones, there is no like way to really hold them accountable other than protest. Like, that's the thing too, is like at other schools, I feel like the tension, it's not nearly as tense, because it's like students are able to like engage with trustees, they're able to engage with administration. Like at my undergrad, we had the trustee meetings were like open to the public. Here, they would never ever do that. Like, you can't even like email these people if you want to. Like, there is not really a way to get their attention at all. And they don't really come on campus. They don't really like interact with students. And so they just see what they see in like the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times. And that paints a very biased picture of what's happening on campus. Like, of course, when you have with something like the encampment, like, you're going to have, with that many people in a space over a period of time, it's like, people are going to have disagreements and stuff. People aren't going to get along. But it's like, for the most part, what was it? It's been painted so differently. And it's also, I don't want to say like what was it? I don't want to say like you have to be like, oh, you have to be in order to get like your demands met and stuff, like you have to be like the perfect like peaceful protester. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is like they do not interact with us at all, but they make decisions that have quite literally like ruined people's lives. Like there's a trustee, for example, his name is David Greenwald, and he is the treasurer for the Legal Aid Society of New York City. And that he was the person that was like really, really pushing for the police to be brought onto campus.
That's crazy.
And it's like you work for one of the
fucking
largest.
Legal Aid.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
exactly.
fucking insane.
And and it's like the amount of cops that was sent in that night. I was there that night. It was just terrifying. It was like 600 cops or so there was a building occupation at Columbia for Hind Rajab. She was a 6-year-old Palestinian girl, and that was murdered by the Israeli military. And so students occupied a building and named Hamilton.
They renamed it Hind Hall, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You're good. And there were about 45 people in the building, and they were unarmed. They didn't have like weapons or anything on them, and they sent in 600 cops. And like even when students tried to like negotiate, like before they could even negotiate with the university, Columbia already sent in the cops. So it's like they are deliberately like doing things to like antagonize students and like make our lives like miserable. Like Columbia admin has like repeatedly targeted me for being public about like what's happened to me at Columbia, for being Palestinian. I remember, Columbia, they sent me, there was like a teach-in, and I spoke about like how I lost family members in Gaza at a teach-in, and they sent me a disciplinary notice, like literally trying to get me in trouble just for saying that. And it's like, just like, I think just like the level of repression and stuff like that has been enacted towards us is really awful. But it's also too is like the reason why like it's so important to like continue going and to continue engaging and stuff is like, I know that like what I'm facing in the United States, like, yes, it's rough, but it's like, I'm not a Palestinian living under occupation. I don't have to go through checkpoints throughout my day. Who knows? Maybe Columbia will install checkpoints on campus next.
I mean, they're going in that direction.
Knows? But it's like I know that I have like the privilege and the ability to speak out, and like I'm not going to sit here and like say like, oh, it's been like I've definitely lost stuff. I've definitely been targeted for it, but it's like at the end of the day, I knew that I couldn't like live with myself if I just like stayed silent on this.
I think I was watching earlier today. Is it Mohsen Madawi? That's how you pronounce his name. Mohsen Madawi. I saw him like a little bit after he got detained. I saw a clip of him. I think it was on 60 Minutes going around. He was on there about a year ago, and he said that the battle for Palestinian rights is the most important civil rights thing of our day right now. And I mean, I don't see how he could be possibly wrong where they're using this as like testing grounds to oust people for what is essentially thought crimes and like torturing students for wrong think and wrong speak and acting wrong. And I do think it's really important to, continue to stick up in any way you can at like Palestinian protests because of that, because it is kind of the breaking point moment that we're at, I feel like, for a lot of rights for people in America, especially people who are here on student visas, who their lives are being destroyed because of whatever speech, which should not be happening. Obviously, like that should not happen to anyone in this country.
I also would note, really importantly, like, I mean, I think part of the reason I wanted to have you on, Layla, is because, I think you're great. I think your advocacy is great, and it's been so important also to understand what's happening at Columbia. You've been so informative on Twitter and everything. But I really think that like Colombia is one of these places right now that's like a test. It's like the testing area for some of these things in terms of like
Absolutely.
the pliancy of our population, of like what we're willing to absorb in terms of like state involvement and state terror.
Mhm.
But also just, even in the case of Madawi, I want to note, like, I think critically important, they arrested him when he was going to his U.S. citizenship interview. That was when ICE came to get him. It was like the ultimate fuck you.
Just so cruel,
Yeah.
so evil, genuinely absurdly evil. Everything this administration has done is so absurdly evil.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame. I wish it wasn't happening.
A lot of the sort of terrible behavior of Colombia predates this administration. Like they set the stage for this by being so pliant when it came to any kind of objection to this particular genocide.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely under Biden that there was those iconic pictures that came out of them setting up the fire truck ladders into the building that the students were occupying to start breaking it up. And there was a lot of police moving into the building with like full riot gear and just, all of that's been happening since 2023.
I know, Layla, that you are like, well, I have it pretty easy compared to people who are actually suffering through a genocide, but you're enduring a lot. And like, you basically have to go onto a campus that is like full of people who want to see you expelled and want to see you go away. Like, what is it like to go to school now?
I would say it's surreal is the best way to describe it, because I have met like some really wonderful people throughout. Like, I've met people that I would have in other schools and like other grad programs and stuff that like I would have never met otherwise. But yeah, no, like walking onto campus, it's instantly like, oh, I am not welcome here. I am not wanted here. I'm often like followed by public safety or like cops on campus.
What?
And it's like I'm not a scary person. Like, it's like I wear like frilly dresses and I'm like 5'1". Like, I'm really not like a scary person. And it's like usually I'm like feeding pigeons on campus or like reading or something. Like, I'm a huge nerd. That's why I came to this school. I'm a giant nerd, and like to just be treated like I am treated like I'm not human. Like, I've had oh, now the thing is too is like it's very weird seeing like some of the people that have been like the most hateful and the most vile towards me are like people that I go to school with. It's like they are faculty members at Columbia. They're the ones sending me death threats. They're students at Columbia. They're the ones encouraging for me to be doxxed. Or like sending my information to like websites like Canary Mission.
My God.
Yeah, like I can go to class and like there are like people on campus, and so like basically what they do is like they have like profiles on the Palestinian students. They like to call you like if you speak out about like Gaza, Palestine, they call you a repeat offender, is what Columbia likes to call you.
Oh my God.
And so they have like profiles.
That's what the university calls you?
Yes, the university calls you. Like,
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And so they have like profiles on you. What was it? Like, I've like spoken in classes and stuff and like not known that like what I was saying would be recorded. I've had people like I would be like in the dining hall or something. And people would like take photos of me to like dox me. So it is a very hostile environment. But it's also it is a very hostile environment, and it's like something that a lot of Palestinian students at Columbia are like dealing with. Like, I'm not the only one, but I definitely do get a lot of targeting. And I think the other thing too is like the people who disagree with me on campus is like, I think I've been surprised at just like how hateful and like vile you can do towards like someone you've like never met. I think that's been a little like I've seen I've seen like the stuff that like, what was it? Just like, you know, like for example, like what's happened, like the chemicals, like how we were like sprayed with hazardous chemicals. I would never ever think. And like people went to the hospital because of that. 2 other Columbia students like sprayed us with chemicals at a protest.
Jesus.
And like
I wasn't aware of this. What do we know what the chemicals were? Or
so,
is it just
we believed it was skunk, like some kind of like malodor, like law enforcement grade chemical. The people who sprayed it, they're like, oh, it's just fart spray. And they are claiming that, but it wasn't fart spray because it's like the stuff that they sprayed to us, like stuck to your hair and your skin and your clothing. Like, I think it took me about like 50 showers to like get this stuff out of my hair. And it like smelled like raw sewage. Like it was really, really disgusting. And the people who sprayed us were 2 other students. And instead of helping the people that were hospitalized, Columbia decided to pay the person that attacked us $395,000.
Why?
A settlement.
What the fuck?
Yeah, they did not provide me with like any kind of like financial help or like anything. Like I had medical bills and I had to like replace my clothes and stuff after this because like the stuff that they used, it was like some kind of like endocrine disruptor. Like it made all of us like sick. Like I was like throwing up for days. Like fart spray does not do that. Like let's be serious.
It does not.
It does not. And like Columbia never like really like acknowledged that or like even like
they didn't
really,
acknowledge
like,
that other students did a chemical attack on campus.
Fucking crazy.
The only time that after they acknowledged it was after we went to the press, because I tried to go through all the proper channels first. I was like, let me report this to public. I'm a social worker, so I'm like, okay, I'm not a social worker yet, but social work student. So I'm like, okay, let's go through the proper channels. Let's advocate. Let me email my dean. Let me report this to public safety. Let me report this to NYPD. And I thought, okay, surely the school is going to do something. Like there are like over 10 of us in the hospital. And like it was not until like I went to the press and other students went to the press that the school did anything. And that was like really what caused me to like lose faith in Columbia as an institution, because it's like that is when your students like need you like during an emergency and you failed them. So it's like what Columbia is doing now is like it is a continuation of their policies. Like if you were willing to like ignore that and slide that under the rug, you're willing to let your students get detained. And the reason why you're willing to let your students get detained, you're willing to let your students get deported, like willing to use police brutality on all of us. And that's something that like people don't really like the encampment and all that stuff. Like the reason part of why like that happened is like the chemical attack was in like January, and like students were like contacting their professor and like really like begging the school to respond. And I remember like literally I was so sick, like I couldn't stop like throwing up. I couldn't stop throwing up, but like I was doing like interviews with the Intercept and what was it? I think Intercept and like some other publications and stuff. And like I was so sick, but I was like, I have to do this because if I don't do this, like this school is just gonna shove this under the rug. And that chemical, like that really like set the stage, because it's like you were letting, and the thing is too, is like there's so much talk about like anti-Semitism on campus. The guys who attacked us, right? So they specifically went after some of my Jewish friends. My friends, they were holding up a banner that said like Columbia Jews for ceasefire. And the guys that sprayed us with chemicals, they went up to them and called them like capos and like fake Jews and, oh, you're not a real Jew, and like specifically targeted them because of their Jewish identity. But you never see this, like, you know, in all those congressional hearings about like, oh, like anti-Semitism on campus, you never see that mentioned. And it's like the guys who like, this happened on American soil. It's literally like American citizens were attacked by soldiers of a foreign military. And that's just like, okay.
And I think that Alex, you touched on this a little bit before, but I think that like the whole anti-Semitism framing is a failure of the university, of course, but in almost entirely the media as well. That they're just like, oh, is it anti-Semitism or is it just activism? We don't really know. Actually, that's like a major framing issue that has put a lot of students in harm's way because of that.
Nothing about all of the many Jewish activists that are involved in these protests that are frequently at Columbia, that were involved in the encampment. There are a ton of Jewish people involved in various capacities. That is obviously not something that is ever paid attention to. What is paid attention to is like the one time that, you know, someone gets punched in the face or something, if that even happens, you know what I mean? And like that will get all the coverage, you know, whatever the one negative thing that happens in a sea of people where that's not happening, that's what they're going to focus on. And speaking of anti-Semitism, I just want to like go to this because I think this is really, really important. Which is thank you, Layla, for coming on. We're the number one anti-Semitic podcast. I'm kidding.
Come on. Three of us are Jewish.
But I'm just kidding. But the part of the federal demands on Columbia, they want them to so like in order to get this $400 million in funding back, which I want to remind everybody listening that Columbia has a multi-billion-dollar endowment.
Yeah,
okay?
They 400 million is going to hurt them. It's certainly not going to shut the university.
It's fine. But one of the requirements is adopting the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition of anti-Semitism. Now, this is one of those things where it's like, well, that sounds good. I think I trust the Holocaust Remembrance Alliance to define anti-Semitism. But the problem is this is one of those things where they say that criticism of the state of Israel is anti-Semitism. And this is one of those things that they're trying to secretly slip into law in the United States. This idea that if you criticize the state of Israel, that is anti-Semitism. So you are committing a hate crime by criticizing that. They want this to happen at Columbia. Also, part of the settlement is they want to ban the use of masks during protests.
And I just want to point out, not the most important. No, don't say sorry. But not the most important thing is all of these institutions and the government under Trump have been trying to ban masks. But every time I see, most recently, the Mossad, all of the ICE agents, the police were wearing masks, hiding their identities all the time. They're little bitches. They're little babies. Yeah. Like, what's going on there?
Get them. Fucking get them.
I would also, so, I mean, this to me feels like, it's part when we talk about that framing, it's like this is just like a constant framing of making the students look, seem as if they are anti-Semitic when in fact, many of the students are themselves Jewish. They participate in the Jewish tradition. There are many anti-Zionist Jews, who have been participating in this since, including myself. On October 8th, I was in Times Square with people that were there, and I got a lot of angry text messages and phone calls. That was the beginning of the end for me with some people. But
they found out that you were anti-Semitic.
They found out, yeah. But one other thing I want to notice, I don't know if I don't know if I sent this to you guys or not, but I posted this on Twitter. I don't know if I was the first person to catch this. I'm going to pretend that I was the first person to catch this though. But did anyone see that the executive order that Trump signed in January, which was the order aimed at combating anti-Semitism in educational institutions, was Executive Order 14188?
I remember you showing that before the live show, actually. Yeah. No, that is fucking, like, that can't just be a coincidence, right? Yeah. Like, that has to be so intentional.
I don't think so. But anyway, I digress.
Awful. So what does the future hold for activism at Columbia, where you're like definitely a target? Like, how are you guys organizing now? What is the plan for the future?
So I've stepped back and stuff like a little, because I'm like graduating and it's like I can't be like as like involved, but I would say that like students are going to continue, and I think that means like changing tactics, like changing how people are like doing stuff, and also just like having a consistent presence. I don't think like people realize like how much these protests like mean to people in Gaza, and like how little how like to hear from people in Gaza like that we were able to like give them hope, that we were able to make their day better during such like a horrific. We had people writing thank you notes to us from God. That like I saw those and I started like I was like, you're so like genuinely so sweet. Like these people, they are living through hell, and like they took the time to write a thank you note to us, to make videos for us, and to make videos for students across the country. And
Yeah.
it's like, I think as long as this genocide continues, as long as this is funded with our tax dollars, you're going to see students, not just at Columbia, but students across the country. Like there have been students at UMich that have been facing a lot. They've been facing a lot of repression. The attorney general there, she's trying to put like felony charges on them for I believe it was the encampment. There are students at UCLA that have been doing a lot of really important work, and it's like all across the country we are seeing support for Palestine, and we are seeing public opinion change around Palestine, and I think that's something really important. And like for me, it's like I want to keep going until Palestine is free, until people can like step foot in their homeland. Like I never want to like what is being done to Palestinians in Gaza. It is something that I would never ever like wish of or like dream of happening to another human being. And I think that if people normalize this and say, oh, this is like acceptable, like what they're doing to Palestinians, they will do this to other people. They are already like I don't know if people realize this, but like they basically use like Gaza and the West Bank as like a testing ground for like different weapons. Like they'll be like, oh, this is like battle tested, and it's like, yeah, because it's used on Palestinians. They are going to like use this stuff on Americans in the future. They're going to export these weapons and these technologies to other people and other populations across the globe. And like I think what we're seeing a lot of with students is like when it comes to students, changing of tactics and continuing to like stand together, I think is really important. And I think also too is like continuing to like build coalitions across campus, like not just having something be done by like one org, but having kind of like that broad base of support is really, really important. And I think honestly, like divestment is inevitable. I don't know if Columbia will be the first to divest. I don't expect them to, but like divestment
Not at this rate, yeah.
Yeah, divestment is going to happen at some point. And like, yes, divestment will not end the genocide in Gaza. It will not fix the trauma that people are enduring, but at the very least, it is something real that we can do to help people, and I want to continue doing that.
Amazing. I think one day, I hope in our lifetime Palestine will be free. I really hope. In our lifetime, because that would, I don't know. We just have to keep going. We just have to keep working at it. Do you think, I guess maybe just to round this back home, is there anything that anyone that listens or us can do to help people like Mahmoud Khalil or even some of these like student activists that are being targeted? Is there anything just anyone can do to help out the movement?
I think talking to people one-on-one and like having those conversations with your family members and with your friends is really important, because we all have people in our lives that like we are able, like they listen to us, or like they will be able to understand something better if it comes from us in a way that like can't be done through like social media or like or like print media. I think having those one-on-one conversations with people is really important. Like, do not underestimate the words that you say when it comes to like your friends and your family members. Like I've told people like stuff about like stuff about Palestine, and like they've been like a little like hesitant and stuff in the past, but like I've had people say like, wow, like what you said to me like 6 months ago, like I really thought about it, and like I've changed my mind. And even if it's not just that, like beyond like the having conversations and stuff, like going to rallies, going to protests, engaging with social media content. I don't know if people realize this, but like the Israeli government, they have spent over $150 million on like targeting college campuses in particular and targeting social media platforms. Like, for example, Meta, they got direct orders from the Israeli government to like remove like Instagram pages for like Students for Justice in Palestine. Like the Columbia SJP page was suspended because a policy advisor under Netanyahu recommended that it be suspended. And so it's like, sharing with that stuff, engaging with that stuff is really important because it's being suppressed. But like if that doesn't work, like there are other ways you can share information. Like I feel like print media is really, really coming back, like zines and that kind of stuff. It's and like do not underestimate the power. Do not underestimate the power of that. I also think too is if you're like, okay, I can't show up to a protest, I can't show up to a march, but you still want to do something. Really important to donate to organizations in Gaza on the ground that are like doing the work of like providing families with food and water and diapers. The Samir Project is Palestinian led, and they are awesome. They have a camp. They have a special camp set up for children with disabilities in Gaza because, like the hospitals and stuff are like destroyed, and it's like people still need access to medical equipment. They still need their prescriptions and all that stuff. So really just like if you can have like a bake sale or like a fundraiser with your friends to like raise money for this kind of stuff, like every single dollar goes so much farther than you think. And like it's not like people can like work their normal like jobs and have employment when everything's been destroyed. So it's like people might be like, oh, like, like I'm donating like $25. Like, what does that do? And it's like, that can literally be like life or death for someone. And like, it really, really does make a difference. And just like, never underestimate the impact that you're having, because like, if what we were doing, if it wasn't powerful, they wouldn't be trying to suppress us. They wouldn't send cops to beat students. They're doing that because they're scared. And that's just something to think about. But it's also important to remember that like bravery is contagious, and like when you're brave and when you're willing to do stuff, it gets other people willing to speak out too, and it can have that ripple effect. Amazing. I think that's an amazing place to end. Was there anything that you wanted to like plug, anything like that? I was gonna plug some fundraisers for the Samir Project. We will put them in the show notes. Yes.
Well, wait, there's one more thing I want to add.
I'm listening.
Go on. Yeah. Oh no.
No, it's not a joke. It's serious. I just wanted to just because we're talking. Okay. I think this is really important stuff. I think to our audience, we're living through this time. We always talk about where we're living in unprecedented times or whatever, but like, this is the fucking time. And like, we all need to lock the fuck in for real. And, there are a lot of ways to support, obviously, and this is one of them. But there's just one piece you meant, because we're talking about basically the imperial boomerang here. So there's from Discourse on Colonialism. I just want to read this one part from it. And then one fine day, the bourgeoisie is awakened by a terrific boomerang effect. The Gestapos are busy, the prisons fill up, the torturers standing around the racks invent, refine, discuss. People are surprised, they become indignant. They say, how strange, but never mind, it's Nazism, it will pass. And they wait, and they hope, and they hide the truth from themselves that it is barbarism, the supreme barbarism, the crowning barbarism that sums up all the daily barbarisms, that it is Nazism, yes, but that before they were its victims, they were its accomplices. that they tolerated that Nazism before it was inflicted on them, that they absolved it, shut their eyes to it, legitimized it, because until then, it had been applied only to non-European peoples, that they have cultivated that Nazism, that they are responsible for it, and that before engulfing the whole edifice of Western Christian civilization in its reddened waters, it oozes, seeps, and trickles from every crack. Lock the fuck in.
Thanks, Lolo. All right. Well, thank you so much, Layla. We really appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me.
Sorry, that was like an intense ending.
No, it's good. That's really good ending.
No, I think that's a
it's
perfect
great.
ending. That's perfect.
Not everything can be one of your
Thank
goofs and gaffs, my friend.
I know.
No.
you still managed
I
to
still
get
got
a couple in there too.
goofs. The beginning,